4 Degrees to the Streets is designed to empower anyone curious about places and spaces, not just persons with professional degrees or backgrounds. Here we will cover a host of topics, including transportation, health, housing, and the environment through the lens of racism, classism, and sexism, and give listeners the tools they need to overcome institutional barriers. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at the 4 Degrees Pod, and tune in every other Tuesday where Nimo and Jas keep it 4 degrees to the streets. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the 4 Degrees to the Streets podcast. Happy Black History Month once again. We're a few days in and I'm just feeling the love and the education and just truly the beauty of what it means to be Black, and excited for this month and what's left to come. So this is our second Black History Month episode. Earlier this month, we released an interview with Kristen Jeffers, the Black urbanist, on Black history and urban planning. And today we are going to be talking about what it means to hashtag support Black business. So Jasmine, how's your Black History Month going? How are you holding up?
I'm doing just fine, trying to stay out the way of the coronavirus, and trying to stay out the way of this snow. It's really cold, but I'm excited for this episode and everything we got going on.
Right. I know everyone was like, snow on the first day of Black History Month. It's not it's not adding up.
How
Like,
you doing? How's DC going?
whenever you guys talk about the snow, I'm like, oh, where we didn't really get that much, but we're supposed to be getting some. So we'll see. Hopefully I can keep the peace and mind my Black business inside.
Good to know. I'm excited for this episode because it's the first time that we have so many guests on the podcast. So far, we've only had one additional member join us, but today we have 4 new guests on the show, and I'll be reading their bios shortly. But we are going to be talking about Black businesses this episode, and I'm going to go ahead and read those bios. And so the first guest that we have is Kira Hibbert. She's the owner and partner at 3BL Developers, a real estate agent at Caldwell Banker Preferred, with a progressive experience spanning project management, residential development, and urban and economic development. Kira has a proven track record working collaboratively with municipal leaders and developers in all facets of urban economic development, from land use regulations and public-private partnerships to affordable housing, brownfield advocacy, community outreach, and federal financing. She's a strong advocate for sustainable development and strives to build more economically, socially, and environmentally sustainable neighborhoods for America's future. Prior to starting 3BL Developers, Kira was the manager of policy and strategic initiatives at Locust, Responsible Real Estate Developers and Investors, a program of Smart Growth America. Here she managed nationwide technical assistance programs and capacity building projects to aid municipal leaders to address community challenges, including downtown revitalization, transit-oriented development, and housing equity. Kira was born and raised in Kingston, Jamaica, and is currently calling Philadelphia home. She left her birth country to see the world, experience different cultures, and most importantly, pursue higher education in community planning and development. Kira holds a master's in city planning from the University of Pennsylvania and a bachelor's degree in economics from Stetson University. She's also a board member of the Delaware Valley Smart Growth Alliance. Bashira Ajamin, founder and owner of She Raps, is a Ghanaian American Muslim educator born in Seattle, Washington. She recently graduated from Louisiana State University with a master's in education, specializing in curriculum and instruction. Since 2008, she's worked with Teach for America program as a corpus member, striving for educational equity with Black and Brown students in rural districts of Southern Louisiana. She's currently a full-time fourth grade teacher. God bless your heart, Bashira. And in December 2017, Bashira was named Washington State University's first campus civic poet for her talent in spoken word and engagement in activism. In the next few years, she hopes to continue civically engaging in movements against social injustice, both here and in West Africa. Bashira officially launched She Raps February 2020 as a small business rooted in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, as well as Accra, Ghana. She Raps specializes in body adornment such as waist beads, African print head wraps, and body jewelry that promote healthy body image and body love. Bashira manages a team of waist bead makers in Ghana, and her business, She Wraps, also offers wholesale services for other aspiring entrepreneurs and small businesses. She Wraps' belief and motto is that every curve is worth celebration. And then our final business is two young men that I know very, very well. They represent Brown Mill Company. Brown Mill is a New Jersey based clothing brand founded in 2009, influenced by the work ethic of founder and CEO Justice Pitt Goodson's grandparents. At the cross current of bespoke tailoring and streetwear, Brown Mill handcrafts garments including collared shirts, embroidered jackets, graphic t shirts, single cut pants, customized for every individual. Brown Mill is an innovative lifestyle brand of luxury clothing touted as a combination of bespoke tailoring and streetwear. All of Brown Mill's clothes are produced using recycled textile material, which comes from clothing waste, donations, imports, thrift stores, and driven by a strategy of urban upcycling. Pieces of salvaged material are incorporated into every design, creating entirely new garments crafted to perfection. The style is further motivated by ties to the community and the urban backdrop in which it began, drawing heavily from the Black and Brown cultural experience in America. The clothing and accessories produced by this company range from hats and tops to outerwear and pants. Each customer receives a custom product, individual in its own right, just as Brown Mill stands as a unique clothing brand in an industry of imitators. By allowing their cultural backgrounds as Black Americans, in addition to familiar high end brands like vintage Ralph Lauren and Savile Row tailoring to inform their clothing style, Brown Mill is able to bridge the gap between streetwear and high fashion. Sustainability is a pillar of Brown Mill's business and life practices. The company's mission is to reduce waste and inspire sustainable lifestyles. Brown Mill produces its clothing with the environment in mind, upcycling discarded textiles to create one of one pieces. Since inception, they have upcycled 1,000 pounds of clothing with their no waste motto. Y'all are doing great things, all four of y'all, actually. So we're
Thank you.
really happy to have you on the podcast.
Yes, we're super excited. Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And so, in the order that Jasmine read the bios, we want to do introductions. So, please tell us about your brand, how it started, and why it began. And we'll start with Kira, and then head to Bashira, and then Justice and Taha.
Thank you, Nimo and Jasmine. I'm excited to be here and excited to share more about my business and what it means to be a Black-owned business. Just to start, 3BL Developers, it is a real estate development company that my partner and I started to protect our interest as we acquire, renovate, and manage residential properties here in Philadelphia. And just to give some background, while I was working at a nonprofit in DC in 2018, I was in a long distance relationship with my boyfriend, now husband, who is from Philadelphia. And at the time we were dating, he purchased and started renovating a quadplex that was pretty beat up. It was run down, in disrepair. So this took up most of his time. So most weekends I would travel from DC to Philadelphia and help with the rehabs, and that included, getting dirty, doing hands-on demolition, cleaning up the job site, painting, shopping for materials. And after about 6 months of traveling back and forth between DC and Philadelphia, I just knew I was more passionate about investing in real estate full time. So I quit my job in DC, moved to Philadelphia to embark on this new, exciting but challenging journey of real estate investing. So currently, 3BL Developers, we do short-term rentals. That's like Airbnb, and we are in the process of the planning phase of our next multifamily project. So as the company grows, we hope to become conscientious investors and developers who, as the name suggests, 3BL Developers, which means triple bottom line development. So we hope to focus not only on profit and financial performance, but also the ecological and social impact our projects have on communities as well. I also became a real estate agent. So I'm with Coldwell Banker Preferred at the moment. And that was mainly to learn more about the real estate industry, how to represent myself in deals to save money. I also started an Instagram page, Philly Realtor Finds, and that was really a way for me to educate myself about real estate, and also inspire others to invest in real estate. Because I've come to believe that real estate really, whether it's owning a home or purchasing an investment property, it is one of the safest, simplest ways and steadiest ways to build wealth and achieve financial freedom. Thank you.
I am the founder of She Wraps, a small beauty business and a wholesale business as well. I am a full-time fourth grade teacher, like you mentioned. So I am completely unashamed to say She Wraps is my side hustle and my side business. And I because I love teaching and I love what I do. And I'm just, navigating these different parts of my world kind of merging together and coming together. My mother was actually the first to open up a business in our family. She sold fabrics and she sold clothes and jewelry for the longest. And then when things got a little bit tough, she had to move back into our home and people would come in and shop from our home. And so I grew up watching her without knowing that she was one of the first entrepreneurs that I was ever exposed to. And so I'm blessed to continue on her legacy. She Wraps was founded for the purpose of empowering women to embrace love on their different bodies and body types. Like you mentioned, we specialize in body adornment, mainly African waist beads, which have been part of a generations-long tradition of women adorning themselves for the purpose of beauty, accentuating femininity. We are also so proud to ethically trade with African women throughout the diaspora who have been trading beads and fabrics for centuries to support their families. We launched in February 2020 after I finally, decided that I was ready. It's always hard to take that big step, but I finally grew the confidence to do so. Over the course of 2029, I had dealt with a very disheartening roommate situation when I first moved here to South Louisiana. And She Wraps was really that vehicle for me of empowering myself through empowering others as well. And so, yeah, I'm very excited to be here. And let me know if you had any more questions that I didn't answer.
No, thank you. That was perfect, Bashira. We're going to go ahead and go to Justice and Taha.
Thank you, Jazz and Nemo, for the opportunity to talk on you guys' platform. It's really dope to be here. Um, I'm gonna start off real quick, giving you some background on myself. Um, yeah, my background is in entrepreneurship and lifestyle fashion, I guess. Started off Brown Mill in late middle school, early high school, and really modeling it off after my grandparents and their work ethic and their story. A little bit background on them. They come from the South. My grandfather, he came from the South to Newark, New Jersey, lived in the rough parts in the early days and really worked hard, actually two full-time jobs to bring them from there to the suburb, which is Piscataway, my stomping ground. And my grandmother, she's just super creative and out there. So really taking a little bit of his work ethic and her creativeness and mashing them together really was the inspiration behind the brand. And even the name, Brown Mill, it comes from my grandfather, John Brown, and my grandmother's first name, Mildred. So paying homage to them and their legacy and all that they stand for is the foundation. Um, so with that, living in Piscataway, just loving to dress up as a kid, and really just loving, you know, garments and fashion. Just being like, hey, let's make something of our own. So I started making bow ties, and Jasmine can attest to that. I made Jasmine Sweet 16 bow ties for like it's not the groomsmen, but the I don't know what the word is, but yeah, made those bow ties.
The people in the court. I actually don't know the name,
Yeah,
but the
yeah,
court. It
the
was like
name
8
for it.
guys, and Taha was in that too.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's when Taha and me met around sophomore year of high school, and I started working together to really build the brand and turn it into what it is today, which is really a full fledged lifestyle brand. And from then on out, just really developing the skill sets and my business acumen through internships, jobs, apprenticeships in the fashion industry and in the business field, and applying all those knowledges to um, our platform and our brand, Brown Mill.
And with me, from my background was more of based around art and design. When I grew up, my cousin was heavy on drawing, so I would always go to his house, and every time I was over his house, we'd have these drawing contests of who could draw the best superhero. That's where I got my design from, and then from there, I kind of went over to when I used to play a lot of football in the streets with my friends. So I would be over my friend's house, and he actually he would put us on and tell us how it's um it's better to create your own fashion versus to go and buy someone else's. So that's when he took us to Home Depot because we couldn't drive at the time. He took us to Home Depot and we bought spray paint cans and we spray painted our own shirts, and that's where I kind of started my fashion journey from there. And then when like Dustin said, when we got to high school, that's when I joined Brown Mill, and then it's kind of up from there.
Thank you all for sharing your stories and how your brand started. Um, I think that those are incredible stories, hearing how family was involved, how different partners that you chose were involved in helping you guys become where your brand is today. Before we jump into some of the other questions, after you guys sent your bios and I was reading them through, I noticed this theme of sustainability, whether it's sustainability in upcycling materials for clothing or Kira sustainability in the built environment lens, and then Bashira ethical trading patterns with women in West Africa. So I'd like to hear from whoever wants to jump in on this conversation why sustainability is important for the work that you do, and how you became aware and knowledgeable of its importance.
So I guess from the fashion aspect, when I started off making bow ties, I was unknowingly being sustainable because I was using like my grandmother's leftover fabrics or like cutting up old shirts to make just random things. So that was that from the beginning, just organically. Then throughout college, I started taking environmental science courses and really started getting into it. Even my roommates, they had startups in the environmental science fields that dealt with sustainability. So really just hearing them talk about it and all that, I was like, how can I take what I'm doing? How can we take what we're doing and apply the sustainability aspect to another level? So we started sourcing specifically, remnant fabrics. I used to work with Levi, so we brokered a deal with them where we would get leftover denim fabrics from their jeans and started to make, garments from those in order to not, contribute to the ongoing, overconsumption cycle that we have as a nation in the clothing industry, because it's something that's getting worse and um, it affects us daily and it's going to affect the next generation. So thinking about systems that we can implement now and in the future to kind of make new things out of old things or make new things of, in a sustainable way is something super important and vital for our survival as humans in a physical aspect, I think.
Kira, do you want to talk about sustainability in real estate and what that means for 3BL?
Yeah, so for me, my background's actually in city planning. So I'm an urban planner, just like you and Nemo. And my concentration was land use and environmental planning. So just being exposed to that, I became more aware of the environment, climate change, and what it means to do sustainable real estate development. Also, while I was working in DC, I worked as a nonprofit with a coalition of real estate developers and investors that cared a lot about the environment and doing advocacy work for public policies at this local, state, and federal level to ensure that there is a sustainable real estate development. So I took a lot of that when I worked there. That left a lasting impression on me, and it made me want to be that type of developer too, that type of investor here in Philadelphia or wherever if I stay in Philly or wherever else I decide to invest in real estate. I wanted to take that as a component. I wanted to be more than just focusing on profit, but also on the environment and people. So whether that's incorporating environmentally friendly design techniques or materials. I mean, usually it is more expensive to do that, but I think my long-term goal as our company grows, we would like to ensure that is the premise of our business.
Thank you, Kira. So before we get into some of the other questions and for everyone listening, we wanted to kind of set the context of what it means to be a Black business in the United States. And so Jasmine and I pulled some data, some recent data from the US Census Bureau and the 2018 annual business survey to really show how minority businesses are currently stacking up. And so currently, 18.3% of all US businesses are owned by a minority group. 19.1% of all US businesses are owned by a female, and so that's of any race or ethnicity. There's only 5.8% of all businesses that are Hispanic owned, and this has been increasing in recent years. And then Asian owned businesses only account for 10% of all businesses. And 25% of that, 10 for Asian businesses are in the food and accommodation services industry. Black owned businesses only account for 2.1% of all businesses, and a quarter of those are in healthcare and social services. And this is 2.1% compared to Blacks that make up 14.2% of the US population. Less than 1% of businesses are owned by Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander, and then less than 1% of businesses are owned by American Indian or Alaskan Natives. And we'll have links to this in the show notes. So for those listening, if you want to continue to do research on those as well. Another report that we looked at from the Brookings Institution was to expand the economy, invest in Black businesses. And this report is really interactive and shows a lot of different maps and compares cities and Black businesses as well. What I thought would be interesting for this conversation would kind of talk about it from the equity standpoint of Black businesses. And so, as I mentioned, Blacks make up 14.2% of the US population, but are only 2% of businesses. So if Black businesses match population size, then ideally there would be over 800,000 more Black businesses than currently exist. If the number of Black businesses also match the population size and the revenue from those firms to non-Black businesses revenue, then the total revenue of Black businesses would increase by 5.9 trillion. So if Blacks and populations matched the population for non-Black businesses, then that would be the increase. So $5.9 trillion. And then finally,
Wow.
Black business, right? Wow, like just trying to let all that sink in. So Black businesses create an average of 10 jobs per firm compared to 23 jobs per firm for non-Black businesses. So if the average number of employees per Black businesses was able to increase to 23, so to be at the same level of non-Black businesses, then this would create approximately 1.6 million jobs. And I think especially when we think about coming out of this COVID times, these are jobs that are being left on the table just due to historical inequities based on population and access to resources and education as well. So the question for all of you is, please tell us, in your opinion, what it means to be a Black-owned business. Why does that have significance, if at all? And is part of your brand identity rooted in being a Black-owned business? And we'll go ahead and start with Justice and Taha, and then go to Bashira and Kira.
I would say, yeah, first and foremost, our identity as a brand is definitely rooted in our pride and identification of being Black and of the diaspora. Um, not only being a black business, but as black entrepreneurs, understanding that we have to work way harder. Just any field as a black worker or in any career, we have to work harder than our counterparts in order to receive the same recognition or equal recognition or equal anything. As far as finding funding, finding investment, business loans, everything is harder. You have to be on your P's and Q's. So that's something I'm always headstrong about and working on. As we just have to do more and think bigger and be more as a black-owned business and continue to strive.
Yeah, I think part of that is being able to use our platform to also inform and educate throughout the year, not just through Black History Month, what they usually expect.
Yeah, and I definitely believe that this question has kind of also kind of parallels to the first question that you asked about sustainability. I think aside from the life circumstances that eventually reveal to you why it's important to build ways of being sustainable in your life, um, as y'all know, like teachers are already underpaid, and so finding a way to ensure that I could set myself up to afford the lifestyle that I wanted was really important to me. But in the process of that, how I could also invite others to use their different talents and their different sets of knowledge to sustain themselves and then sustain their families, and by extension, their communities. And so when Justice talks about the different loopholes that Black businesses have to jump through in order to like simply exist, much less, be able to maintain strong track records and sustain themselves for a long time. So meaning that my business has to be rooted in a bigger, grander movement for financial literacy, financial freedom, and upward social mobility for the communities that we not only cater to, but the communities that work with us. And that's that's what I would kind of root myself in terms of what does being a Black business mean to us.
I'm just taking in that statistic that you read. You said Black ownership is 2.1% of all businesses. That's just insane. But personally, for me, I think being a Black business owner, it kind of shows the world that we are capable and able to build, create, and find success, despite the negative perceptions and the reality that Black people aren't afforded the same opportunities as other races, especially when it comes to economic success and career opportunities. But I think, it is unfortunate that just like kind of what Justice had mentioned, like the struggles that Black owners go through, especially like with applying for funding. It's really it's just so crazy to me, like how Black owners have to get so creative in finding ways to stay afloat, especially when we look at our counterparts. It's just not the same. So yeah, I agree with everyone, and I think if we are able to build, our fellow Black owners, ourselves, and others, it would really help to, drive wealth for Black families, and improve just the overall financial well-being, building the status of Blacks, and help to contribute to thriving Black communities.
Kind of circling back. I'm also really happy to see kind of this spark of a spark of awareness in our global reach, even with everything that's going on right now in West Africa, and how there are many programs for cross things to happen. In Ghana and Nigeria, they have many programs for Black businesses to thrive there, as well as the Caribbean. So I think we're becoming more and more aware of our global partners in the diaspora and how we can all work together to create an understanding and a resource database for each other to help us, um, you know, create opportunity and thrive and grow. Because I think sometimes we might put ourselves in a box when just thinking about that 2% number and only what we can do here in America. But if we were to think about the color of our skin and the opportunity we have globally, within our global community as Black people, we would go much faster. So yeah.
And just to piggyback off of that, I think Justice brings up a great point about this global movement that we are in. I think oftentimes when social movements arise or when they are sparked by an event, people tend to regard um, the push for Black businesses as a trend. Whereas we as Black business owners, right, we are rooted in this idea of building our diaspora, of supporting fellow businesses. Hopefully, you know what I mean? Hopefully all Black business owners are rooted in that. I personally feel a greater sense of responsibility to uphold the Support Black Business movement, not just in this moment that we are rising and growing in social consciousness, but always. And it goes back to the idea of sustainability. How can we, as a global diaspora, right, really tap into that mindset of sustaining one another through growing our financial literacy and through growing our financial freedoms and really building our networks with one another. I believe that since we live in a world where money talks, it's important that we start talking back.
Thank you. Y'all are on it today. Like y'all just take the pot. Y'all just, y'all run it with the bomb, with the wisdom bomb. So here for all of it. I think a theme through that was thinking about a lot of the challenges and additional challenges. There's challenges of being a business owner, and then there's challenges of being a Black business owner. And so I'm just curious, and this is for anyone who wants to answer, what were some of the challenges you faced in either starting or maintaining your business? And for those listening and maybe interested in starting a business or have their own, what would be some of the advice that you would give them to overcome those challenges?
Okay, I can touch on that a little bit. I did mention earlier during my introduction that one of my biggest loopholes, or sorry, one of my biggest hurdles rather, was myself. I just never, for so long, I was like, I don't know enough. I'm not ready. My packaging's not cute enough. I don't have enough people in my network. I don't have enough other businesses in my network. And it's like, girl, when you gonna be ready? When you gonna be ready? You are not gonna wake up tomorrow and have Bill Gates networks. No, like all of it is going to come with time. You're going to climb a ladder, and you're going to skate over some learning curves. And so I had to work myself up to that confidence to really get started, and know that there were going to be challenges along the way. But baby, that's not for the weak. You know what I mean? you gotta so I had to give myself a whole bunch of pep talks. Like, okay, if you want to do this, you need to grow some tough skin. And that the first part of that was just, building that confidence and saying, you are never going to be perfectly ready. So that means you're ready right now. You're ready right now. So try it right now. Start right now. So yeah.
I just want to add on to that I've known Bashir for probably 20 years now, which is crazy to say. We're getting old, and gives us her flowers because I've been able to see her and her business grow over the last few years. So you're doing it.
Thank you, girl. Thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna add on and like agree with you, Bashir. That is a big struggle. It is us getting in our own way, and not believing in ourselves and just starting. Even if you fail, if you start, that's a start, and you can like always push through it. So sometimes I think just starting is like a big obstacle that we have to overcome. Also, like in line with real estate, I am a real estate agent, and what I find is that a lot of people aren't educated in knowing what's possible. So, like home ownership, I feel like a lot of Black people don't necessarily I think home ownership is something that they can achieve. Home ownership is like one of the number one ways to build wealth. There's equity that you can get from your home. There's cash flow if you're investing, and people just don't know, and think that they're unable to achieve these things. So I think a challenge is educating people about what is possible. Like someone who has what's the word? Someone who doesn't have the flashiest job thing, I come across that they don't think that home ownership is something that they can achieve, but in reality it is. If you have a steady job and you even if you're paying rent monthly and you're consistent, yeah, home ownership is definitely something that you can work towards. So I think, just to wrap that up, a big challenge I'm facing is getting people educated about what is possible. Like, you can do it. You just, with the right resources, with someone to guide you, it is possible.
But Justice and Bashira brought up this conversation of the global market for Black-owned businesses like that are based in America, and in the movement right now of our global importance. And so I want to talk about this report from Yelp and how the pandemic and how the unfortunate circumstances that happen to Black men and Black women in terms of police brutality and police murders over the summer kind of focused a lot of attention across Americans and people all over the world really on how they can be invested in the cause and in the plight of Black people in America. And one of the ways that kind of grew out of that was how can they support more Black businesses. And so Yelp, which is the largest kind of search engine for finding local businesses, they published a report in June of 2020 that wanted to look at the changes in their database for searches of anything starting with the phrase Black owned. So whether that was Black owned bookstore, Black owned salon, Black owned coffee shop, Black owned boutique. And they found that from May 25th to July 1st, 2020, so basically a month, that the number of searches for Black owned businesses increased over 7,000%. They increased from around 35,000 to 2.5 million just in that month, as compared to that same time period in 2019. And so it's unfortunate that people had to die or people had to protest for there kind of to be this surge of interest in spending money with Black owned businesses. But how has your brand been impacted, if at all, on this kind of increased interest in spending their money with Black owned businesses? And that honestly might also just come from more Black people, because I'll say, firsthand that it's super easy to go to Target to buy a waist bead, Bashira. And it's super easy to go to some other big brand store to buy a hoodie at Justice and Taha. Super easy to just go anywhere and find a real estate investor or a realtor. And so Black people, I think, have to have a better job of seeking out Black owned businesses to spend their money with. Because if we don't do it ourselves, how can we even expect or anticipate that other people will do the same? So the question that I want to pose is, how has your business, if at all, been impacted by this kind of surge? And how do you think that you guys can sustain that interest over a time, so it's not just a movement thing or a period thing? And whoever wants to jump in can answer the question.
To kind of touch on what you just said, Jazz, really good points. Like you said, it's really easy and accessible and convenient for people to do the thing that's near them geographically, or what they know as their brand that their father and grandfather wear. But it has to be a intentional thing to go out of their way to support Black businesses a lot of the time. And unfortunately, that's what it is. But I think with a little bit of education and good branding, I think that we can kind of turn the stride and really get people to make this a lifestyle, because our business increased a lot. Fortunately and unfortunately, after the whole social justice thing happened early, March and stuff. But it's like, how can we make this a sustained thing? Sustaining one another, like you said, Bashir, all year round, all lifestyle round, globally. Um, I just think it just comes from keep on keeping on, and us doing our part to provide good experience in Black businesses. Because a lot of times I think one thing Black businesses get a knack for is like bad customer service, or like not doing what we can as a business to provide the best experience possible to have that retention for the customers. So as long as we're doing our part and providing the best product, best experience, and excellence with what we do, nothing but time and education will help make that a lifestyle. But I mean, I have to say, like, it really has been increasing and is on the up and up. So I think it's going to be a time factor and being on the P's and Q's factor. But I will say, yeah, we have benefited a lot from these past few months. People being intentional with supporting Black business. Um, but yeah, we just have to keep it up.
Yeah, I definitely agree that a lot of it is going to take change on multiple levels, personal, choices, and then a collective conscious choice, systemic changes to make access to Black businesses even greater and just more accessible for people. Like you said, you can't. By the way, I didn't know Target was selling waist beads. I hope you just use that as an example. Now I'm gonna have to
I
leave
just
my
use it
house to
as an
go check.
example. I don't really know if Target is selling waist beads.
Okay.
Target got anything
But
else,
like I
so
said, if you walk into Target and purposefully looking for some waist beads, and something in your spirit doesn't tell you that you might seek means to buy these beads from women who have, sat out in the sun to trade beads for their living, sat out for generations trying to support their family members. Places that, traditional waist beads actually come from, or places that, ethically and locally sourced goods come from, then don't consider yourself invested in the collective movement for upward social mobility for Black people. I think that even though we all cannot be perfect, being that, we're all on our iPhones, we are, using different materials from different businesses inevitably to kind of merge into the world and continue to participate in different things in the world. We still have a responsibility to be as conscious as possible, and that could mean different things for different people. Maybe it's that you are changing where you are eating and deciding to support local Black owned restaurants. Maybe it is when you shop online, you shop and you find out whether that product that you need is being sold by a Black business first. And some of it is also, like I mentioned, systemic. What power do you have in the areas that you work at, whether it's in urban development, whether it's political, whether it's educational? What powers do you have, or what leeways do you have? What platforms do you have that could aid in collectively building and sustaining our businesses so that we can sustain our communities? I think a lot of people also think of it as like, well, it's just my homegirl. I'm just supporting my homegirl. Like, no, when we all make the collective conscious decision to support Black businesses at the most facets of, our lives, that means the money is circulating in our communities. That means it's going back into our pockets over and over again, and it's ameliorating where we are in our social statuses, in our financial statuses, and etc.
Just to also one more point with that, like I like what you had mentioned, this year, with access to the Black businesses being super important. And I think Black people at certain positions also play a big role into providing that access to opportunity for other people. For instance, Beyonce did a great job of it, early on with her Black Parade website, where it's basically a directory of all, like, hundreds of, maybe not thousands, of Black businesses from
I've
certain
heard
areas.
about that. It's
It was
amazing.
dope. So it's like little stuff, not little stuff, that's a big thing. Stuff like that really matters and really plays a big role. Like my girlfriend, she bought, these wine glasses from the website, and I bought some stuff. So that's super important to have year round and updated. And, not just her, but other people too, and other things we can create. I think Clubhouse played a big role in that this year, as we saw, with providing access to networks, resource understanding. And so it's going on. It just has to continue and get better and better, I think.
In terms of things that can be done in people's in positions, I think that minority and women owned business program that a lot of cities have in their procurement office is a really vital tool, because if you think about the amount of services that even a small town like Piscataway contracts out, they might contract out their trash service, they might contract out their snow removal and different things like that. If they have a minority and women owned business program in their procurement, that means that a certain percentage of their procurement dollars have to go to a minority woman owned business. That provides a lot of opportunity for all minority owned businesses who are doing snow removal or trash removal or any kind of those services to get consistent funding from an entity that's not going anywhere. Like they're going to be here, they're always going to need snow removal services. And so I know that the first one of those programs started in Atlanta with a black owned mayor, and him looking at their procurement dollars and saying, like, there's a way that we can spend this money wiser and get it out into the hands of a diverse array of businesses. And so I think that the directories that grew up over the summer, I mean, even Instagram using their platform where you can like filter for black owned businesses, I think all of that will draw attention. I hope that instead of this movement kind of lending, I'm going to just repeat it again because it's something that really boils me. It really requires black people to seek out those services themselves, because if we don't do it, nobody else will, and we can't be upset if they don't, because we're not doing it ourselves. There's like a statistic going around that shows the number of days or hours or weeks that a dollar earned by a person in each ethnicity circulates within that community. And I don't remember the number, but I do know that for black people it's significantly less than any other ethnic group. And that's disheartening, because it means that when we earn money, we're not even spending it within our community, and that it's never that circulation of wealth that Bashira and Justice were talking about.
Jasmine, I think you mentioned a really good point about the classification of businesses as disadvantaged or minority or woman owned. And I think some cities also call it like a certified business enterprise program. But there is also, again, I think we talked about earlier, that education piece for um, Black people in general, and then also Black businesses to then file for that status so they can be included in citywide contracts or state level contracts that have that obligation to meet. And so I think now, when we're thinking about how can we how can we do more sustainable things to bring businesses forward after this movement that started in the year of 2020, which was such just everything that went on. One of which we've mentioned on this call as well, being the coronavirus pandemic. And, we've seen data from the National Bureau of Economic Research that shows just how hard businesses were hit. And it's just become clear, whether we're watching it on the news, whether we're seeing it on the street. Jasmine and I were just talking earlier. She was saying one of her favorite restaurants in DC. And I was like, I think they might be closed, And so we've seen that the restaurant industry has been hit, in-person retail has been hit, leisure and hospitality industries. And as of April, there was a 50% drop in these job postings. And so that's just one of the ways to show that jobs are being cut. Things that once existed are not there anymore. And so we want to hear from you all. How has the pandemic impacted your business? How have you been able to keep your business profitable during this time? And She Wraps, Shira and Taha and Justin of Brown Mill, you all are in the retail industry, but then also have an online platform. And so how have you been impacted in that way?
So I think it was kind of a little bit of both. It would kind of hurt us and help us at the same time. So I see, well, versus our online, right? We're getting prepared on in 2020 to try to scale up online. So versus our pop-ups where we had a majority of our sales. So we noticed after the pandemic hit, we couldn't, it, kind of hindered us. We couldn't even have pop-up shops in the beginning, so we weren't generating any sales in person. But through the pandemic, everybody was at home, so everybody was online shopping more. So we did see an increase in sales when people were indoors more.
Yeah, and also to that measure too, because people are at home more shopping through e-commerce, we had to increase our content on our social media, our content on our website, just so people can see that we're active, we're moving, and all that leads to the website, which converts to dollars. So it had to be a kind of a shift, but in the end, it was a little bit more. It's better for us because it's more profitable because it required us to be a lot leaner. We didn't have to go out and do a pop-up shop that required us to rent the space and all these extra things that cost money. We just had the website, we can come and spend a dollar. So it turned out to be pretty good for us and really showed us the power of e-commerce and the power of content. So it was a blessing in disguise in that sense.
And Kira, how has the pandemic affected the real estate side of things?
Yeah, so the COVID-19 crisis really did impact the real estate market. For like agents, one of the biggest things was with the stay-at-home orders. They weren't able to go out and show homes, work with buyers. Home sellers weren't willing to list their properties to allow people to come in to view them, to buy them. So it kind of really disrupted the market when it just hit. There was a housing shortage, so that really drove up the price of houses. So buying a house, I'd almost say made it unattainable for some for people who were considering purchasing a house. Now it's like, wait, the price increased by 25%. How am I going to afford a house with my salary? It's not like salaries were increasing with COVID. So there was lots of inflation in the market. I also do Airbnb. So I work in the service industry, and one of the we were really impacted when the government shut down the city and everything. We got a lot of cancellations, so that really just it shook our world, because we're like, wait, how are we gonna pay our mortgage and our bills, with all these cancellations? And there was no we just didn't know, how are we going to start making money again? What are we going to do? So it really shook up the world, the real estate industry. Also, because a lot of people were forced to limit their work, losing their jobs, you weren't able to pay your rent. So they had the moratorium, which allowed renters to stay in their homes, and then landlords, they're not receiving rent, and a lot of landlords have mortgages that they're unable to pay. So while you identify with a renter, and then it's like, I'm also a landlord too, so I understand that struggle, dealing with all these changes. So it's been a very right now, I think the market is slowly bouncing back. Some would say real estate really took off during the pandemic. Others will say that's not true. So I think it really has been like a mix for some. It just depends on what side of the table you're sitting on. That's really just a general overview of how the real estate market has been. Right now, currently today, there is a shortage of houses on the market, but there are a lot of buyers because interest rates are at an all-time low. So there are more buyers, less houses. So it's just a very competitive market right now. There's a lot of bidding wars going on, and people are just trying to come through and buy a house. So it's a very interesting time. And yeah, we're just, hoping 2021, things kind of smooth out as the year goes on.
I just wanted to plug really quick because thanks for explaining that so eloquently, Kira. But for folks listening, we'll have Kira's Instagram page that she mentioned, Philly Realtor Finds. I just love going on there. It's just like the page is super cute. Like everything is just designed so well and super informative. And I've been able to learn
Oh,
from posts. And so we'll share that so you all can continue tapping into Kira's real estate knowledge.
So that pretty much wraps up everything we wanted to talk about with you all today. What we like to do at the end of the episode is go around and have everyone say something that they feel is a takeaway from today's conversation. It can be really anything. And so Nemo and I will go first, and then we'll go to Bashira, Justice, Taha, and then Kira will close us out, and then Nemo will give us some final words on where you can find the episode and things like that. So for me, I think the takeaway is that the businesses are out there and the it's like a balance between providing the access as a supplier of a product, but also because there's so few businesses, black owned businesses, it does require the consumer to do some research on their own. And so utilizing search engines, utilizing directories, if you're in a position where you can expel government funding, utilizing your programs to do so is very important. And so that's my takeaway for the episode. I'm really glad that you guys could all join us.
I would say my takeaway, and this is something that came up in the beginning when everyone was sharing the background of their businesses, but the importance of family in business orient, the start of a business, the importance of love being rooted in those businesses as well. As Kira mentioned, her partner, how they started. And it just reminds me of my own family and my parents throughout the years. I've seen them do their own business as a full time. I've seen them do their own business as a side hustle, and I'm just super grateful to have them in my life for those examples. And I think and then I think the community aspect of that love and family that you all have spoken to has really made my day, and so I'm grateful.
I think my takeaway would be don't let this become just a trend to support Black-owned or minority-owned businesses. Realize that the real change happens when we hit them in their pockets. So let's continue to empower each other through our pockets, and hopefully that can make the real difference and we become the change versus looking for change.
A good takeaway I got from you, Jas, was understanding the importance of the resources. Um, Specifically looking into the procurement dollars aspect, I'm definitely going to see what Newark and Piscataway have to offer because we have sewing machines. If there's a way we can do some uniforms for Piscataway Middle School, whatever, that's opportunity there. That they're, like you said, have to allocate for minority businesses. So,
My takeaway is that it begins with us, and that we are powerful enough within our own rights, but we're even more powerful when we work as a collective, and when one of our the core values of all of us, it becomes community. There's just so much more that we can attain, and I think the other thing I wanted to do is just pay homage to the Black owned businesses that came before us, the woman owned businesses that came before us, who had to jump through even harder loopholes and had to get through even more difficult, more challenging hurdles. At least we have social media. And yeah, just paying homage to those, and I'm proud to be from that lineage of women and Black resistance. And we have so much to offer the world, and we've given so much to the world. And when you support other Black owned businesses or Black owned initiatives, don't think about it as just a one-on-one support. Think about it as going far. Think about it as throwing a stone in a river and the ripples really reaching places that you cannot see. Yeah, that's all.
My key takeaway is that we really have to make a conscious effort to support our fellow Black-owned businesses. If we don't do it, no one else will. So, I think it's a good opportunity to educate and empower Black entrepreneurs, and just help each other to build wealth. The more we share, the more we support, the more we keep talking, uh, advertising, giving solid advice. Yeah, we can help to grow our community and create thriving Black communities.
Thank you, Kira, and thank you, everyone. Shira, Taha, Justice, Kira, you guys are all now officially part of the 4 Degrees family, and we're so grateful to have you here and for your time. They're showing excitement and enthusiasm on the call. And for everyone listening, we hope you've enjoyed our Black History Month episodes. Please continue to engage with us. If you liked it, tell us your thoughts. Feel free to continue sharing things that you want to see or hear from us, as we're just starting out in our first season. And you can listen to 4 Degrees on a variety of platforms: Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, and wherever you really get your podcasts. We're available. We drop episodes every other Tuesday, and you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at the number 4 Degrees Pod.
Peace out, y'all.